It's 5:30. It's now 5:30. I now call this San Juan Economic Development Corporation meeting to order. First item on the agenda is our roll call. I'll begin with my right.
Ben Ajona, interim EDC director.
Jesse Ramirez, ex officio.
Fred Rodriguez, secretary.
Israel Garza, treasurer.
Gilbert Vasquez, attorney.
And Arturo Guajardo, president. We also have
Mr. Contreras is coming in.
Here, present.
Pedro Contreras is also present. Second item on the agenda is public comments. Anybody registered for public comments? Doesn't appear to be. We'll move on to our director report.
Yes, Chairman, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. There's a few items on the director report. One of them is the Fernandez Entertainment that took place last week. It's photography and catering, they do taquitos and all that. It was a great event. It took place last week at 6 p.m. That was the ribbon cutting. There's another one that will be taking place Wednesday, March the 14th, next door, Mixfit, at 6:30 p.m. Hopefully everybody can make it. There's another ribbon cutting that it's on Veterans Road by, what's that name of that street? Before getting to Hall Acres. It's
More?
it's
Rancho Blanco.
Conway.
Conway. Yes, Caliche Road, right?
Yes, that's a collegiate.
Yes, it's right there on the corner. It's a trucking company. They're doing a ribbon cutting ribbon cutting, grand opening. But it's gonna be at night. They're gonna do some sort of a dinner type for everybody. The lady is very appreciative because the city helped them out and also with the EDC assistance. And hopefully we can assist them later on some sort of EDH project or one of those.
That first one, Fernandez Entertainment, is not an actual location, no? There's gonna be a mobile, or they have
No,
an
no, actually it's an
place?
actual location. This is on, what's the address? This is where those, storage units were built on North Raul Longoria.
Oh, okay.
And this is the.
North of Eldora?
Yes, sir. Those are the ones, the new ones.
Okay.
It's a small little place, but it's,
We'll be housing out of there.
there's a whole bunch of different little businesses there.
Mr. President, if I may, Director, I would ask that you all please continue sending us those invites at text messages. Thank you, Ms. Patterson, that helps a lot, as early as possible so
Yes.
we can plan for it.
And as, I know that Ms. Patterson sent an email today
Yes,
with a mix fit.
it was Milo.
Yes,
Yes.
Milo. So, we'll be sending those weekly or as they become available.
Thank you.
The next one is, March 20 is not here, but this is something that we just got today, March 22nd, there's Tacos al Pastor Don Cuco, it will be 9:30 a.m., it will be on a Thursday. It's a business already there, this is gonna be the ribbon cutting,
Yes.
What day is it?
The first anniversary.
March 22nd. It'll be the first anniversary for that, Taqueria Don Cuco,
9 a.m. in the morning,
9:30, yes.
9:30.
You know what the address is of that?
Don Cuco, is there? Don Cuco.
Don Cuco.
Eso es un Longoria.
March 20th.
Is that the one before Sioux Road?
Right.
On the plaza next
It's
to?
2025 North Raul Longoria.
Okay, it's where the church is across the street.
Yes, sir. And just a quick update on the, we met yesterday with the bank property people over by next to the Lexus. We're working on that, you know what, I'll wait for that one for the audit auditors report. Also another project was the two restaurants that were supposed to come over, they were kind of like on a standby. And then apparently they lost interest on that. And then they came back to the picture, we met with TechStop because apparently the problem with
The restaurant's there at that location, at the bank?
No, I'm sorry, that's gonna be discussed
Okay.
separately. The one is Valencia property.
Okay.
There was supposed to be like a car wash,
Right.
and it was 4 properties there for 4 businesses, and two of those were supposed to be for restaurants. Apparently they lost interest, and they came back, because the interest was the ramps that the interchange is gonna be, Texas is gonna be working on those interchanges. And the guy, the developer was kinda concerned that maybe the people that were developing the restaurant would not be interested in building there because there's gonna be a lot of traffic, a lot of commotion. And he wanted to know how the ramps were going to be ending up at the end. So we met with Texas along with the developer, and yes, there's gonna be an I guess those two interchanges that are gonna be taking place.
Right.
There's gonna be two additional lanes going on at that place. And their concern is that when that takes place, well, there's gonna be a lot of traffic, a lot of congestion, that there might not be a lot of, business taking, place in that area.
They're not gonna stop coming to the church, that's what you had to
And
tell them.
that's what we told them.
Across the street.
And the other thing was that because they're gonna be possibly relocating the exits and the, coming
Up
out
ramps.
of the ramps.
On and off ramp.
Yeah.
They call it the spaghetti ramps, because either you go up and then come
Go
down.
down, yeah.
That's not a for sure thing, though. That's what they told them, the engineers told them, this is not a for sure thing, this is proposed, that's a recommendation, but it sounded like it may not happen, but they didn't wanna say that. For sure, they'll probably get an answer within the next couple of weeks, whether that's gonna be taking place or not. One of the things that I told the guy was that, or one of the things they told him was that, if that was to take place, as far as the up and down ramps, exit ramps, there was gonna be some work done at the frontage by the Valencia property. If it doesn't happen, well, there's not gonna be any work there. However, the traffic is still gonna exist. Weekends, at 5:30 when there's mass. So there's gonna be a lot of traffic, so the guys seems like very open to the fact that, you know what, the people that are setting up the restaurants there, it'll take place. So we're hoping that within the next month or so, hopefully before May, if not by May, they'll get an answer.
Did you meet with the developer, the one that we met with, or with the actual people from the restaurants?
No, the developer.
The developer, the one
Yes.
that te trajo Ramiro,
Yes, and the developer is meeting with the restaurant people.
because he's the one that was gonna bring them in.
Yes, he's the one bringing them in. As a matter of fact, he's the one purchasing the property.
Correct.
And then as that, he'll lease the property to the restaurant people.
Right.
We're still talking about the corner of Expressway and,
Behind Pizza Hut, the Valencia property.
Now, there may be another location that I kind of spoke to the gentleman about. We need another burger place. And he said, well, if you're interested in that, the W one, let me talk to these people, maybe we can do some sort of a package type of thing. So he's gonna be working with a W Whataburger place. Hopefully, he can bring them on.
And you remember what the restaurants were, right, over there? It was a palenque, we can share that, right, the taco palenque thing. It was no secret.
That's what the guy said. There's no secret, he didn't wanna say it, so I don't wanna say it, but there's no secret. So, yes.
We knew that, I'm just saying that amongst us.
so, back to the on and off ramp, the layout is the concern, the spaghetti layout, or that's the concern?
7-Eleven project,
Because apparently
because
there's
there used to
gonna,
be a 7-Eleven there in the corner.
there's gonna be some
TV.
motion. One of those barriers, one lane versus two lanes, so they're saying, you know what, there's gonna be a lot of, and this is not on the developer side, this is on the restaurant people. They're saying, we're gonna invest $3 million, and then before we see those monies, recoup those monies, it's gonna take us a lot longer. And one of the things we told them was that, yes, it is something that will be taking place in the near future, but it's not gonna take place until maybe 3 years from now.
You still have, what,
You
the
still
3-year
got 3
period?
years,
Two, 3.
and and we told them, if there's gonna be any work done on that frontage, it'll take anywhere between 3, maybe 4 or 5 years,
By the time they
before
get,
there's any work done there. So the guy was very susceptible about, going to the people, we're very happy about going to the people and saying very positive, that, you know what, I think it'll take place, so.
You did tell them about the church, every Sunday, there's major mass.
And that's exactly what we told them, any construction that takes place is not gonna stop the people from coming on Saturdays or Sundays.
Yeah.
It's always super packed. So he agreed to that.
Ojalá que no se enfríen, hombre.
No, I'm supposed to talk to the guy here shortly, maybe next week.
Because we
See
had
what the
committed
status is.
are you
some
sure,
money,
are
remember?
you sure nobody else is trying to steal them from him? That sounds like somebody else's catering
You
to
never
them.
know.
I don't know, I don't think so.
No?
No, that was not the, because he's buying the property. He's also eyeing the one right next to HEB. So he's saying either I purchase this property or the one behind Valencia.
They
That's
got-
his
The
idea.
guy's got money, those guys, they're buying some major properties in McAllen también. So they're not messing around.
So that's the, what else do I have? That's pretty much the extent of the status report on those two little projects. So hopefully it'll develop and make some money for everybody. We did talk to the guys and offer some assistance without checking with the city. But we told them that we can always work something out.
We had discussed that in the executive session when we were meeting or whatever, huh, with that group.
Yes. Maybe some sort of a 280, where we could help them out with either utility lines, water lines, look at the lines, or whatever they can do, the city's there to help them out.
Okay, move on to number 4. Any questions or concerns about the director's report? No?
The next
Move
one I
on to
have,
number 4, the
Chairman,
financial.
Commission, board members, it's the financial report on the city of, the EDC, the monthly. So you can see the only thing we did was the revenue, the summary on the revenues and expenses. It seems like we're on track. This is up to January the 31st. On that month, we received 67,965 in sales taxes. It seems like we're in track. And if you notice the percentage on the side, that's how much has been encumbered and expensed out. So we're right at that point where we're supposed to be at. It may seem like the item on supplies is at 97%, but you know, the amount of money is there is minimal, so it's almost spends out on supplies. We purchased that at the beginning of the school year. I mean, the school year, the fiscal year. Other than that, I don't know if you have any questions on that?
No, I don't. Any questions, concerns, comments? No?
Sure, the only question I have for Mr. Bona, is there anything that needs to concern us?
No, sir.
Or that you're concerned with?
Okay, we'll move on to our next item. Number 5 is consultant status report. Mr. Hollis Rutledge, or his
Yes.
representative.
Chairman, members of the board, I wanted to bring Mr. Hollis Rogers over to give us a status update on the EDA grant and the NetBank. As I mentioned before, we visited with the EDA gentleman up in Austin, and we're at the point where we need to pretty much finish up the project so that we can come back and apply for another EDA grant. We can always apply one at a time, and the next time we can apply for another one is until we finish the project. So that's why we're at the point where there's some money left over at the Nexus project. And I know that one of the discussions was that there was gonna be either different possibilities of extending the sewer line all the way to 495. The most feasible way of doing it was going through the frontage on Veterans. However, it was gonna be a very tedious, difficult task because there's a lot of utility lines in there. And that's on a gravity format that works. So what happens at like during the winter or during the summer when it's at night, when there's no activity going on, especially like on weekends, so the sewer stays stagnant there, causing odors, causing issues. And we looked at it again with the utilities director and the engineer. And one of the things is that the La Plaza, San Juan Cafe Plaza, they have and I forget what that is called. It's like a grinding type of a pump that they use. And what we need to do is go and enforce that for them to put an adequate one, you know? And because we're not in the health inspection business, we really can't do that. Maybe the county can do that in the health department. However, we feel that that's their responsibility to take care of that. It was their development. It wasn't done adequately. So we need to come back and say, this is not adequate for your business. So the next time that somebody leaves a business or somebody wants to get a CO, we will not allow it because that thing is not adequate. So that's gonna force them to fix the pumping station that they've got.
Mr. President, I got a question. Mr. Bona, that was a very good point. That was my question in reference to, and how are the owner, how would they be forced to do the required upgrade? So you're saying, are you gonna contact the health department from the county to come by and visit, or how is the health department gonna come in and do the checkup, or
And I don't know how
at this point?
I don't know how the county does it, and I know that they're supposed to be checking that periodically, whether it's every quarter. What they do when there's like a sewer backup, we send the city to go over and flush them out. But it's getting to the point that is really not helping out, okay? And
But what
we-
you're saying is that you have the authority, the city has the authority not to give no more permits until they fix it.
That's right.
That's it. That's
One of
all.
the things on that plaza was that it was never properly subdivided. And by that, we mean that it was never properly done accordingly to however the way should be required. It was just,
By
piece
city
of property.
standards.
And they got us up back then, I think he was a city engineer. at
It was
the
a
time,
city
too.
engineer. The next door, who?
The owner of that property is Dr. Schweeb, I know him, so he's got dust.
He's got one.
Que le aviente un poquito a la esquina, ¿verdad?
He's got several little.
Write it off.
little-
One more question,
all
Boss.
over the place.
I remember the fire department, there was an issue back, in a building where daycare wanted to come in, due to not having proper, the fire suppression system, sprinklers, okay. So the business couldn't come in, right? And, can that concept be applied to this plaza? No businesses come in until this is upgraded? Can you do that?
We can. The only problem that we see here is that the thing is not properly subdivided. But we can always go back and check the requirements. You need to meet this requirement before you can move forward with this. Now, keep in mind that that property, and I don't know when this property was developed, and if it was before the city annex, but you all remember
It's been a
that?
long time.
It was,
25
it was
years.
annexed already.
It's already
That
out.
was part of the city already. See, it was, I'm gonna have to have been,
That far back.
About 20 to 25 years.
at least 25 years. yeah.
So if it was annexed already, then, the city should have done something back then.
But if he already has the muscle to stop from giving a permit, just based on that alone, then that's all we need. Nah, you don't need
Fix
to,
it before we can actually,
In other words, they cannot get an occupant's license
until you fix
until
that
you
drainage
fix the
issue.
until
problem.
we fix it.
So there will be no renters coming in.
Right, and then at that point, what we can also do is they need to make them to properly subdivide that property.
But that would be obviously at the city end of it, right?
Yeah.
Right, so
Yeah.
now that he's-
So we can do that.
Now, another thing that, Mr. Frank is here to give us an update on the project.
Yeah, I have this little reports here.
Thank you, Frankie.
Like Mr. Arjona said, we met yesterday. Bro. And pretty much there was some, there was a balance because the bids came in lower than what we were originally expected for the Lexus project. So we had to use the excess funds in that same area.
Sure.
So I know yesterday we met and, pretty much we have a project, right? We have a plan on where we're gonna expand the water and sewer. If it's in the same environmental area, if it's the project. And then, pretty much all we're gonna do is we're gonna send a letter to EDA saying this much we're gonna use in this project to pretty much amend the existing project. We had already spoken to them before and they were okay with it as long as it stays within the same scope, within the same area. That way we can use all the grant funds that are available and get the max bang for dollars.
And we were expected to get that money back from them somehow or another, right? Or you had said or no? I remember
No,
talking about that.
Yes, we talked about that, and, we're looking at we really cannot get the money back. This is.
Right, but
this
it's
is-
some type of trade-off.
Right, sometimes, yeah. However, it's $110,000 at is it 110, 107? That is on the city side, on the EDC side, that still remains as a balance. Now, on the bank side, they're looking at, additional improvements. So we're looking at 160, 170,000.
155.
55,000, something like that, so it's another $50,000. So how do we get the monies back? The mayor called me, approached me and said, how can we do so that these guys, we make sure that they stay here? I said, well, the only thing that they were asking from the EDC side is we may need some sort of a reimbursement because of those $25,000. Now, was that gonna make the deal or break the deal? Possibly so. It was, they were in that little negotiating factor that, you know what, we don't have the money, help us out with the looping, so the mayor said, man, just, let's help them out as much as we can. Those 25,000 have already been spent out from the city last year, or from the EDC last year. So the monies are there, can we help them out with the roofing? And probably so we committed to helping them out with the roofing of the water, with those additional fundings. So are we getting anything back? The only thing that we're getting back is
Making sure they're staying here.
making sure that they're staying. As a matter of fact, they gave us a letter
Sounds like no. then.
with the McDonald's that is coming in, and.
I don't think they were going anywhere,
Who, the McDonald's?
No, the Banco.
No, but we're talking about the McDonald's.
Oh.
The
McDonald's,
McDonald's
car
coming
wash.
in, the car wash and also the
And
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A.
There's a possibility, they didn't wanna tell us who they are, but there's two more restaurants coming in.
I think it's 5.
Right, there's five, there's two more that are coming in. We don't know who they are. I know they did say another burger place. Don't know which one it is, but it's kind of weird because they're gonna have
McDonald's,
a McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, and another burger joint, so I don't know whether that's gonna be the case or not.
It doesn't hurt us at all. I mean, we're just maximizing this loan anyway.
Yes.
It was gonna be money that's gonna go back.
Right, yeah. And all we're doing is extending the sewer line and also, doing the water loop
I believe so.
for that's a requirement by the fire department. And also for the water pressure. So that's what we're doing, Here's the money, use it, I'll stay here and develop all of this property.
Cool. For the record, Commissioner Ernesto Guajardo has joined us. I forgot to mention that. So do you have an actual report or are you just giving us this?
This is the report. I know also Mr. Rutledge wanted to let you know, we went to that meeting, like Mr. Arjona said, up in Austin with, the EDA, Mr. Jorge Ala. But also, he's been working and he continues to work on getting the Texas Leverage Fund.
That was my question.
Going.
Where are we with that?
I know he's been meeting with the congressmen and the senators, and the governor's people, so he's trying to somehow get it back in before the next session, so we can move.
That requires legislation. right?
Yeah,
Yes.
so he's working on that. He told me to let you guys know that he's working on that and staying on top of it, and hopefully we'll have good news soon about that.
So, touching up on that subject, I know that legislation is gonna be taking place again this coming year. So we're gonna be meeting with Mr., what's his name from West Africa?
The director.
Mando Martinez, and to talk to him and see what is it that we would like as a city, to see it happen at the legislature. So I'm asking here, maybe start brainstorming as to what we would like as an EDC to propose as a legislature. I know that we
Well,
will
support for that Texas Leverage Fund would be an automatic. Maybe we
Yes.
just get him to sign a letter and
Yes.
say that support.
I know we talked about the luxury vehicles, some sort of a tax, something that can give us, taxes back on the luxury vehicles.
Because the city doesn't get anything or we don't get anything out of the luxury vehicles here?
That was really-
That's the service.
Just parts.
parts, and service.
Or merchandise,
Property tax, but nothing like that.
but off the
They
sale of
pay ad
the vehicle.
valorem to the city though, right?
Right.
But for sales, not.
Sale of the vehicle.
So that's something that we're trying to push. on the
Do some
next
research
session.
there, cause I know FAR tried it a while back, several years
Is
ago.
that the case in all dealerships?
Yeah, we went
yes,
across.
every single,
And I know that we talked about, a lot of years ago,
Power, baby.
on luxury vehicles from a certain amount of dollar and above. But then again, it was like, nowadays, almost any vehicle is over 40,000.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Unless the ones that drive Mercedes, then
Big Ford trucks, big Ford trucks.
big Ford trucks.
Anything else on our report?
I don't have anything else. We're continuing to work on all the reports and the reimbursements for both the Nat Bank and the EDA. So, I went and it looks really nice. I'm really excited what's going on. Working with Carlos and with Castle, they're doing a good job.
Yeah, they showed us a rendering that the Texas National Bank is a beautiful bank, the way that they showed it. But speaking of which, the EDA, it's a first come, first served now. It's not like the monies are there. So one of the things that, once we see that, what is it, Conway and J&A carriers, that road can easily be a EDA project. So once we finish with this project, we need to present something to Mr. Jorge Ayala and see how much money we can get.
Yeah.
It's very competitive. It's not a sure thing, again, that we can get those 250,000 that we just got for the for the Lexus project. Pero, I mean, if we can move on that fast so that, anything that we can get this way, it would be a big plus for us.
Are you thinking like an industrial park, area?
Actually,
Conway?
on that one, our thinking is with the city and through the EDC, but more through the EDC because of the funding.
The reason why I'm bringing it up is because that's county can get involved in that area too.
Right, they can get involved. So depending on the cost and the dollar amount, how much can we get funded through EDA grant and then the rest of it maybe through county. But just to open up the street.
Right.
From Veterans all the way to, what is that, San Antonio?
To start with,
To block off
to
the
start.
San
I think it goes all the way
Antonio.
over.
It goes all the way to, Rulon, Nebraska, where we're gonna park. And then
No, I don't think it, I don't think it
No,
does.
right now, there's a blockage between San Antonio
It,
and.
it only goes all the way to Nebraska.
Nebraska.
Only to Nebraska.
Nebraska.
Yeah,
And
at least
then
pay that.
the rest is,
At least pay
land.
that, and then maybe like you're saying, industrial
Start up
park.
industrial park.
There was a company that came over, looking for industrial sites. So at this point, city does not have an industrial site per se. They're looking into the south, possibly right next to that place, the J&A. They kind of like the property that is there, but for their purposes, it's very small. They're thinking about building a building that is, he said here at the meeting last week, 30 times bigger than the Marengo Produce Company. That's a huge,
That's a big
a huge
company.
development, yes.
Wow.
Well, it's sort of very close to the Park Ridge.
And that's what they're looking for, something close to the park. So I pitched both locations and we'll see what they come back and say.
To wrap up this item, can we continue on to our
One
next item?
more question for, I know we talked about the EDA and the Texas Leverage Funds. Are there any other avenues that we can take advantage of in reference to?
Right now, it's been a little tight. I know there's a Texas Capital Fund.
Texas Capital?
But it also, I guess it's been a little bit more restricted on what we can pursue and what we can't. I guess what we mentioned before is like, what do you want to go after? And that helps us, like if it's an industrial park, if it's, just more, infrastructure for development to attract, businesses that are already interested in coming in. So what, where do we wanna go, what direction? And that will really help us, be able to, have Hollis run his traps and all that stuff. But I know it's been getting a lot more competitive with all the grant funding that was before and there has been available, so we're kind of trying to figure that one out, to help you guys and do, the best job possible.
It sounds like, Mr. President, we may need some sort of workshop to give him.
Absolutely, I've been talking about a workshop here, at least to get organized, but we've been waiting to get a full board, remember? Hopefully we'll get one here soon.
And somebody to replace Mr. Arjona,
All that's pending, all that's pending. Once we get the full
He's
board,
running
we're gonna
to-
apply for, post the jobs and have workshops and go on down the road.
Well, thank you.
And we'll continue to, if we see anything, we'll let you guys know.
Thank you,
sir.
Thank you.
appreciate it. I didn't, no pressure, commissioners.
Just fill up your little bar.
Next item on the agenda, number 6, is, discussion number 1 under that, number 6 is discussion, consideration, possible action to ratify payment for invoice submitted by Construction Materials Observation and Testing Services to San Juan Economic Development Corporation for infrastructure improvements and related to project located at the northeast corner of the intersection of I Road and US Expressway 83, Hidalgo Country, it says, County, Texas, from Robert Kishner Consultants.
Yes, Chairman, members of the board, this is an item that, past use is October, November. And, we ratified it because on the last meeting that was canceled, this was on the agenda. So that's why we placed it as a ratification on the payment, because we're waiting for payment, the work had been done, and it had to do with the AEP, the lift station, the meets and bounds on the street, engineering services, and so on and so forth. So that was an item that was completed back in October, November, and it was on the last meeting agenda. However, it was canceled, and due to that, I had to ratify it.
What's the dollar amount? I know that the invoice is attached, but for future reference, can you just put the total on the action item itself?
I think it was about 9,000 plus change.
9,968.
No, it was a 2,000.
2,000, yeah, it was, the whole contract was 9,000 and the portion that was missing was $2,000.
So that's what we owe right now?
That's what we paid already, sir.
It's already been paid, you're ratifying. Gotcha.
And I did talk to individually.
What?
It's like a 2,800.
Appropriate, I'll make a motion.
That's a tricky.
I'll second.
We got a motion and a second to go ahead and ratify the payment to Ramakrishna. I'm still trying to figure out the amount. What is the amount? In the amount of,
It's a check.
Mr. President, the information here, the project is 9,968.75.
right, but that's not this payment.
That was a project.
Is that the 2,833.88?
You found it?
Hey, don't you-
2,008.
$2,833.88.
Okay, very good. So I got a motion and a second to ratify the payment of $2,833.88 to Robert Krishnan. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item is discussion, consideration, and possible action to ratify sponsorship for the Mystical Rose Gala 2018 Basilica of Our Lady of San Juan del Valle as a promotional purpose and authorizing the San Juan EDC to sponsor and issue payment for the Mystical Rose Gala 2018 Basilica of Our Lady of San Juan del Valle as a promotional expense in an amount to be determined by the San Juan EDC board. But that amount has already been determined, right? Because
It was
this is after the fact. Yes. Okay. So this one
I
was
make a motion to go ahead and
ratify the payment, right?
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? No, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, discussion, consideration, possible action, if any, to approve payment for invoice number 4 submitted by Castle Enterprises LLC. Invoice attached, what is the amount of that one?
Mr. Allen,
Yes,
may I ask you a question, please? The $116,559.47, is that what we owe at this time?
that's what we currently owe, yes, sir.
Okay. And on this project, did any of your staff supervise or yourself have supervision over the project?
Most definitely, this item includes, the lift station, the road project and hopefully, and it has already been supervised and approved, and, we checked it out, the street is already done, the lift station is already in place, the electric is already in place. So pretty much everything is ready as, here, so it's been approved by our staff and also by the engineer.
Okay.
This is, Mr. President, I have a question. This is part of the Lexus.
Yes, sir, this is the Lexus, product.
I guess this is not a question, it's just, yeah, it's a question. Sir, what would your recommendation be for us to prevent the same situation we're in at the moment with, we had leftover money and, we're trying basically figuring out how to spend all the money from the EDA, and some of the EDA money is going towards this payment right here, but what would you recommend for us? I know we're talking about an additional EDA application for the industrial park possibly in the future. Is the solution just not landlock us to one block or do an environmental study beyond those limits? Or, I mean, I felt so, limited to what we can do, given the fact that the environmental study was just in that block and we had extra money where we could have invested it and improved other areas. So, for future reference, what do you recommend?
One of the requirements on the environmental, especially when it comes to the federal funding, is that when you do an environmental testing like this, it's gotta be within the perimeter where the project is going to be taking place. So at the time, what we did was, we did an environmental, I don't know what the distance is, but it's on that area.
So the project was basically over budgeted? Is that what
You
happened?
know, what happens is that somebody comes over, like the engineer,
Right.
and they give you an estimate. This is más o menos what it's gonna take to do the
Projected
street,
estimate.
right? And then when you bid it out,
Uh-huh.
well, the bids they can be very aggressive, like for example with Castle Enterprise. And there were other bids that were way over, but this one was way under. So there was some money left over in there. So if it was like, let's say 500,000, that there was the estimate, and it came in at 450,000, because guess what? We're gonna have $50,000 to play with and change orders, or that there were surplus monies.
And that's my point, where because the process works that way, we could possibly be in the same situation later. We get a proposed amount, we get granted for that amount, the bids come in, and then there's a difference of, $110,000. Okay, I don't want it to waste, I don't want it to return, I don't want it, I wanna use it, but I don't know if I'm explaining myself, like, what else can we do to not be limited to what we're waiting for the former mayor to give us permission to go through there, and she said no, so now what else do we do? We can't go this way, the gravity, the project lines because of possible situations, bad situations, probably later. We couldn't go to the neighborhood because you're messing up with already, why destroy something or why improve something that doesn't need to? So
I
You know
think
what I'm
what we do know is that it's project specific, though. It has to be used
It
there.
is within the perimeter.
We can't take it somewhere else. So that's what we learned here on this one. We have to use it there somehow or another, and it was a give and take, and we ended up giving.
One of the things that they're asking for is that whatever money you use on a surplus basis is going to benefit definitely the city, but it's gonna bring additional revenues as sales tax property.
Right, that's always the key. Use it as leverage to keep them or bring in an additional.
what we ended up.
And that's what we ended up doing.
Okay, so I guess that's just going to be leverage to at the end of the day. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So this last payment here that this for $116,559.47 will be the final payment, right?
It'll be the one before the final.
Because the only thing that's left is what's being retained. It'll add up to $493,582.
Right, and this is the same company that will be working at the extending the sewer line and doing the water loop,
Okay.
the utilities and the Texas National Bank. It'll be the same company doing it.
But another job, what, because that's the total invoice, this is gonna be the total from this original contract amount.
Right, and this is for the total contract amount, however, those surplus monies, they will still need to come to us. Not really easy.
Okay, so we were on that payment on number 3, payment for the Castle Enterprises, I don't have a motion yet.
I entertain a motion
Okay, we got a motion and a second.
for 116,
Go ahead and pay the invoice amount of $116,559.47 to Castle Enterprises LLC. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 4 is discussion, consideration, and possible action, if any, to approve payment for Noche de Paz.
Yes, members, Mr. Chairman, we talked about maybe just sending an invoice over for the Noche de Paz contribution over to the city. Or we were advised otherwise that we'll put it this way, so that it was already approved, but now it's approved the
That was
payment.
of what, 20,000 or 30,000, whatever it was? What was the amount?
Whatever the amount was plus the.
I agree with you, Mr. President, the amounts need to be on the item.
It was 20.
20,000?
Yeah, but it was the 20 grand plus the sponsors, and I forget what the amount of that was.
I'll do that for you.
We can, if you like, we can put it on the next agenda, so that we can bring the dollar amount. I wanna be
Because that's a
precise
done
on
deal
that.
anyway, right?
Yes.
So it doesn't hurt anything.
I'll put it on the next agenda.
Table? We'll pass
So
that.
we'll table it.
I'll entertain the motion to table.
Okay.
And then at the next meeting, sir, we'll present the report.
Final report.
Yes.
We got a motion to table, we got a second?
Second.
A motion and a second to table, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And then the table to the next agenda. Number 5 is discussion, consideration, possible action, if any, to modify the mini grant application for the English and Spanish version. Sample attached.
There's I wanna say that this will, used to be before, right? Did you make any changes?
I believe Mr. Delgado, I didn't make any changes. Mr. Delgado was the one that created it, I believe.
Mr. Delgado.
Ismael Delgado, the director, he used to be the director before Bobby Rodriguez.
Here?
Yes.
Okay.
So this is just a sample of a mini grant. And should you have any want to change anything, keep it as is, so that we can offer this to
This is it, the one that says promotional expense application?
You have it in English and you have it in Spanish, and there's a sample. There was trying to see who Mary's Mexican restaurant was, but it was just a sample. Let's call it Miss
Why do
Patterson.
we call it mini grant over here and it's not titled mini grant in Monster? Because what's the proper term for it?
Because I'm thinking the reason they did this is because we were taking the money out of promotional purpose money. We were saying this is a promotional purpose because we don't have a separate mini grant section in our budget or it's been approved as a project. We haven't done that.
Which is the same line item that we're taking all these sponsorships out of, right?
Yes, yes.
And we only have 30 Gs in there, no? Ya no lo acabamos?
No, for the businesses.
Well, if it's a promotional-
there like, wait,
If it's a promotional, then that's the account that we're hitting.
This was what Bobby was doing. And I don't think you've changed the agenda. I don't think, well, I know we haven't passed a project since I've been here
No, we
that
have
is defined as for mini grants for businesses.
Right, and this is what we're actually approving tonight, talking about that tonight.
Okay.
However, one of the things is that there's, whatever was allocated for the projects, remember that additional funding that was there, it was about 85,000 at the initial budget?
Hold on, but, is that the promotional?
No,
Oh,
that's not for promotional.
But that was all included. Like Mr. Koski was saying, we don't have them separated. It's
Okay.
based under the one account.
So
Do
it's
we
all
need
in
to
the
separate
same
them?
account.
It'll probably be best that, that one line item is only for promotional expenses, or maybe call it mini grants, whatever you all wanna call it.
I think if I'm not mistaken, Mr. President, this was an effort to mainstream and get a little bit more organized because the one that comes to mind is like that sign, the restaurant in front of Walmart, remember? They came here,
Huddle
House.
Yeah, Huddle House. They wanted money for a sign. They came in here, they asked for money, we gave them money. So this application, I'm in favor of, so we can better organize ourselves in that sense where we get to look at. But that interests me, where are we gonna get from what, line item, and we're gonna stick to it. Obviously, this is mini, so,
Well, that's why I asked the question, because on the item, it says mini grant application approval. And then I look at the application, and it doesn't say mini grant anywhere on there, it says promotional expenses, which took us to where we're getting it out of the promotional expense line item, which then he added that there's two actually consolidated funds under that line item. Maybe we need to separate them and call this mini grant and separate that other one, so we can know it's mini grant.
Promotional, yeah.
Yeah, because if you notice on the application here, there's two types of what we call the small business grant and small business grant. Which is one of them is the tenant on tenant. It's not to exceed over $2,000. So this is not for,
Oh, it's not to exceed how much, 2,000? So it's small.
it's a small one. This is the one where you must have enough, I did, he said. must
So
have
aquí
enough-
está el budget, the budget under promotional expense, CDC 86,000, you're right, so 35,000, and then you have another 32,000, I don't know what's broken up.
okay, so what was the additional account, the 30,000 one that we thought?
I don't know,
Everything was put in there.
So the 32,000?
it's not separated anymore.
I don't think it has ever been separated. It's never been split. It's always been into one account.
I just, me acordé que that's the money we had, on the 30,000 to be giving away for all these promotions.
I think what we can do.
Because 62, if you look at the year 16, 17, we had 32,500
Mhm.
budgeted. That's how we started, I think, and then we after we reviewed the budget, cut and adjusted and made all those changes.
So now it's
It bumped
86,
up
so are we still under the impression that about 30 we're gonna use for promotional and the rest for these little mini grants, or no?
Once we come out of the, declaring the projects, remember that there was one for 40,000 and some others? Once we declare those
Oh,
projects, then we can come back to finance and say, you know what?
That's the money we're gonna dish
This
out.
this is where most of it's coming out.
That's right.
Once we identify those projects with the monies, then we'll split the money so that those monies can be only for those projects, and then mini grants we can put on the side as well.
Gotcha. So that I understand, what you're saying is, I think we had talked about this in the past, at $86,000, you're gonna break it up within the same item.
Right.
And just say, okay, we have 50,000 for promotional, and then a second promotional level will be mini grants, right?
Right.
That's what you're saying.
Mini grants or.
Okay, so it's within the same item.
Should we put mini grants in there somewhere on the application? That's what the agenda item. right
You
now.
can, I mean, you could change that if you'd like.
Or no?
What do you, how,
Well,
what do you guys
I
think?
wanna get everybody's input. The 86, let's say we do that again next year. Mr. Arjona, you're proposing that we split it basically in half.
No, what I'm saying is that whatever businesses you, declare that you're gonna be helping out, you put them on one line item. And then anything else, you might wanna put it on promotional expenses or mini grant expenses.
But I think what would help me is to have an actual figure. 40 for projects coming in over 2,000. Projects under 2,000 would be mini grants, and there's another 40 for that. That's just my sharing, or don't divide it, keep it together. That's what I'm trying to understand here. Are we dividing the 86, 43 and 43? Or 43 for projects over 2,000, because they're not so-called mini grants, and 43 for mini grants, 2,000 and under? Is that what you're proposing or not?
Well, what I was thinking was, once you know when a project is gonna come into play, you're gonna set aside, like, let's say 40,000 for Nexus, 30,000 for Land Rover, 40,000 for Pizza Hut, 50,000 for, these are the new ones that are coming out that you know that are gonna be in play.
And through those, Mr. Arjona, correct me if I'm wrong, if you're gonna go through a public hearing too.
Those have to go to a public
Exactly.
hearing.
And these
This
don't.
does
Right,
too.
these don't.
No,
They
no,
do?
they do.
You have to go to a
Right.
public hearing?
Yes.
Well, no, we're getting confused because like Pizza Hut,
Exactly.
Land Rover, those are
No,
public.
right, it
those
was
are
just an
public
example.
hearings. Yeah, so what you're talking about is just promotional. Promotional is just 10% of your budget, of your revenue,
That's
every
how we
year.
ended up with the 86.
Yeah, so if your tax revenues are $1 million, then you put $100,000 away for promotional. You determine how to use those promotional monies. Basilica, City of San Juan is having a festival, whatever, however you determine that that's promoting the city and the EDC. And then what we're gonna say is, okay, within that promotion, we have 100,000, this one much will be for sponsorships, and then this item B will be for mini grants. And so we'll be getting money from these two, that way we have trails and we know where the monies are coming from. But it's easier to do these promotional for businesses like this and a lot quicker for them to come and fill out the application and say, okay, $2,000 for you because you're promoting the city and the EDC
Without a public hearing.
without a public hearing.
Exactly.
You don't have to put it in the paper?
Under promotion, that's what
Not
I'm
for
saying.
these, because these are promotional. These are only
Yes.
promotional.
But
There's
Isn't
a
that,
difference.
isn't that where we're getting the money for Acosta that does need to be on the paper, on the
No,
newspaper?
Acosta's not coming from promotional. Not
These are
promotional.
coming from the mini grant?
We're gonna create a whole separate project for,
This
we're
is-
gonna do site improvements for him under the statute, the government
This is a
statute,
project that
not
needs
for
to be
promotion.
declared.
So where are we getting the money? Where is that money here?
We'll have to find the money somewhere from the budget, but it would come out somewhere not from promotion.
My understanding is there weren't any more way after this.
We have the monies there.
I mean, didn't we review
But
line
that-
item for line item, item per item? And last time we went through this, my understanding was we balanced it out where, that's it.
I'm confused already.
The blue tab, yeah. So, while he's looking, so this application, in my opinion, should maybe perhaps read San Juan EDC mini grant promotional expense application. Just throw that in there in the title. I don't know if you guys would agree.
Yep.
Okay, because the first paragraph, it's all, it says mini grant, mini grant, mini grant, mini grant, everywhere, but not the title.
Yeah, we have $60,000 on retail incentives,
¿Cuánto?
60.
60,000 on retail incentives, that's what it was.
Which would be Acosta or
It was
Land
Acosta and
Rover.
somebody else, and I forget who
Was
it
that
was.
Bob Trevino?
Palma?
Sí,
No,
Bob
you should.
Trevino.
I think it was Bob Trevino.
Yeah.
And that's the one that goes
Was
to a
it?
public hearing.
Yes, sir.
I believe it was.
Retail incentives.
I don't think somebody else.
What
I
line
think that
item?
we talked about.
Page 507.
So wait, this is just a thought. So if under that money, we're dividing, we got promotional mini grants and sponsorships under that same line item. We've got an application for the mini grants. Why don't we do an application for the sponsorships as well? See, now everybody that's hitting us up with all these flyers, just send them to that application. And then keep a little bit more order for us, I think.
And these are the monies can be rolled over.
Yes. You can roll over your promotion if you have some left over.
Well, in addition to that, somebody should keep us to date with what we have.
And we have a running balance.
We have-
Yeah.
So every time that we have
Yes.
a request, we wanna see the running balance. That'll help us, very good, Martha. That'll help us decide, no, or.
Ya, pobre Santana ya se quedó sin ganas.
Those are the sponsorships and those are the
No, para el parque.
Ni el cake.
O ribbon cutting también sale de ahí,
Mhm.
promotional.
Mhm.
And what we can do on any type of, whatever there's another, donations or whatever, we can always put that in the running balance.
So this is good, this is what we spent, but we need to know what the total number is and what our balance is.
This is,
¿Es todo lo que queda from 86,000? No.
well, no, this is what is total for these two items.
Oh, just for these two items?
Mhm.
Yeah.
For the sponsorships and this. And I went ahead and put how much we donated for it.
But the most important number would be what's left in the bank.
Oh,
The
the
balance.
balance,
The
okay.
balance.
How much do
We
we
should have
have
about
to work
76 más o menos.
Ahorita, see, maybe subtract about 9,200 into what's on here.
How much balance was
From
it?
86,000.
And what items are there?
This is, what we've given away to date in promotional and ribbon cuttings.
Well, not.
9,000 in feria, 9,200 out of the original 86,000. So we're okay still. I thought it was 30. For some reason, I was thinking 30.
I think those are the monies that we had budget for the vehicle.
And we threw it back into
We threw
that,
it back in.
yeah, we threw it back into there.
And we cut 30, but of the 30 we give to the city or 20 that we're giving is not out of there?
Where's the Noche de Paz money coming
That's
from?
what I'm asking.
I remember us being at zero. I don't know how we ended up with more money than I remember.
We threw, I think, if I remember, the money that we're gonna use in the vehicle, we threw it to the Noche de Paz.
Was that what we did?
That's what we
Water
did.
shop?
Yes, sir.
So we
Remember?
put it in here and then it's going to Noche.
Yeah, it was going back to Noche de Paz.
Noche de Paz.
Because
And I remember, cause I made that motion, I said, okay,
You-
or I
you-
made the,
I think,
whatever we're gonna use in the vehicle, just throw it back into Noche de Paz.
I think Mr. Gilbert, you had recommended, to take Noche de Paz out.
I don't think it was specified.
As a line item.
The vehicle,
Put it under.
Yeah, we
promotional.
threw
it back.
Yeah.
The vehicle?
I think
the
that's
vehicle,
why
we
it's not here.
threw it back into
find
Noche.
You threw it back into the account for promotional expenses, but not into Noche de Paz.
No, it was for the promotion expenses.
Exactly.
For promotional expenses, pero in our minds, dijimos, como quiera lo vamos a
Ah,
dar.
Noche de Paz, yes, exactly.
So what you're saying is you're gonna give 20,000 plus that allotted amount for the vehicle?
No.
No.
Because we were at 30.
Right, it wasn't an additional.
No, it wasn't
No,
additional.
I think what Mr. Furley
No,
is
not
talking
a
about is, no,
That gives us back to 30, the number that we've been thinking in our head, because half of it's already
Right, but
out.
not for Noche de Paz.
No, no.
We're saying that we're getting it for Noche de Paz, that's what is being said.
the I'm sorry, I didn't hear what he said. Sorry.
No. The way
Was for promotion,
for promotion.
not for Noche de Paz.
I mean, because this, Mr. Furley, this is one, I was asking Gilbert, when we first reviewed this budget, there was an actual line item that read Noche de Paz. You see how it's over here on total current budget on, this paper, like the snapshot? It's under 24, it's under 98. So if I'm not mistaken, I remember Gilbert saying, no, I recommend for removal of that and putting it under promotion. So that helped us with, an increase of 25,000. So the 25,000 are in the 86. That's.
At promotional.
Yes.
So it's 25.
But, so promotional would have been minus 25 if we had stayed with the line item of Noche de Paz, aside from promotion.
But it went up to 86 because, that's one of the reasons why.
Because of Noche de Paz.
Now, maybe if we can say promotional expenses and if we know Noche de Paz is gonna be 25, we can subcategory it. Noche de Paz, so much money, 4th of July, so much money. Whatever that we know that is going to be spent out for those particular projects, then we can
Well,
subcategory them.
Mr. Juan, why don't she just list it on there already?
Yeah.
On that paper that we've been just passed around, we know that's where it's going.
We can, but I'm saying when we put the budget together.
Another one is, wasn't there,
Was there any sponsorships
summer-
for to the past?
There was. There was quite a bit that is coming back.
we hop out on another one, was there, besides on the, was there a summer?
The Fourth of July.
Fourth of July, right, because we had always talked about two.
Yeah, so that's why the budget apparently, if I remember correctly, was gonna be 30 in all, and it was gonna be 24 Noche de Paz and 10 for the Fourth of July. So the total of 30.
So
See,
if
for a total of
if we're staying with the 30, Mr. President, then 30 should be deducted from the 86 to begin with.
So we know that money's already put aside.
Yeah, so we don't tap into it and give it out to somebody
We'll
else.
do that. We'll put a spreadsheet on it.
We're at 46,778.76.
Minus the 30?
Subtracting the 30 and subtracting the 9,000, 2,000. Yeah, that's fine.
¿Cuánto queda?
46,778.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to the next item. So we're gonna modify the application, that's the item on the agenda, we'll just add mini grant in there, right?
That was the only change, Mr. President?
Yeah, sure. I guess we should put it in the form of a motion, unless you guys have any other changes to it. My recommendation was San Juan EDC mini grant promotional expense application.
So would that mini grant be for promotional expenses?
Well, the only reason you put promotional is because of the line item, right? According to what I heard from our legal counsel,
Because we're taking it out of promotional.
that's why.
So San Juan EDC, what do you put, where are you gonna put mini grant?
Right after E EDC.
Okay, so San Juan EDC mini grant promotional expense application, so it'll still be coming out of promotional.
I have a question, Mr.
I agree, Ken, it doesn't sound like to have a promotional in there, but since it's coming out of that line item and you're saying that protects us.
I have a question, Mr. President. Must have an operating storefront. Can you explain that? Or, I mean, sorry I'm asking this, but I just wanna, if I'm applying this, the first thing that comes to mind is if my business doesn't, it's not giving front to Raul Longoria, I don't qualify?
No, it's a storefront.
Just a store.
A business, like an
business, a
actual
building.
building.
What kind of this, so if you're a mobile, no,
Right.
basically, so this is not enough, okay. Now I know. You're mobile, you're not gonna qualify. The second question I had here in reference to must be in good standing with any revolving city loan, the RLF. Where are we with that, or that's still up in the air?
We had a revolving loans back when this was, I guess, developed, and that's why they said it must be in good standings. We're not issuing out any revolving loans anymore.
No?
We have them.
You're not issuing any out?
No, we don't have any. So as long as I've been here, they put a stop to it.
Do you wanna leave it in there or lo quitamos?
But I thought we said the last time there was money in there.
Yeah, there's money there.
There's payments.
Yeah, there's payments
So
coming in.
the city
Oh, okay,
stopped the
then.
revolving loans?
As far as I know, yes. As far as issuing out monies out, yes.
But the money's there to be loaned out.
Yes.
So it's possible for someone to come and
Yes.
apply. So then,
I was gonna say, officially it wasn't.
It was never, well, as far as I know, it was never officially done.
Right.
When I got here, they were not giving out any more loans.
Is there an application for RLF?
There should be an application.
It's gotta be an application done by now.
And you guys, the cities in you guys operate, you meet with businesses, or is that's not on the table at all?
Well, it was, I got here as the.
Yeah,
Subsidio.
Now, it doesn't mean that it was
that we can.
formally said, hey, we cannot loan any monies out. There's a certain amount of money there, and there's a few people that are still paying those loans. So with those money, we can initiate that.
Uh-huh.
we
And
can change
start
it
lending
to
money out, and then maybe redo some of the businesses facades or whatever.
I have to
They
ask,
just,
why
they
was there
literally
stuff?
just translated it.
Before
Who
us.
stopped?
And before us, who knows?
Previous,
It just stopped.
I'd say.
So we'll go back to the item on the agenda,
She's not
guys.
here, right?
So the item on the agenda is,
I don't know.
to modify the mini grant application for the English and the Spanish version. So we just added mini grant on the English one, and the Spanish one, dice San Juan EDC pequeño subsidio.
Subsidio para negocios.
¿Qué pasó? Para negocios. So le podemos poner ahí mini grant también.
Sí.
Pequeño.
pequeño subsidio,
You got it.
and put promotional expenses in Spanish. Whatever it is.
Isn't that what that means though? Is that mini, pequeño, subsidio is a grant?
It doesn't sound right, but that's what it means. Pequeño means small.
Small subsidy,
Small subsidiary.
Subsidio.
we'll work on that.
I think
translation.
I think the translation could be a little bit better.
It could be better.
A more text specs?
This was a little bit text messy.
Okay, so want to take it on now, or? do we-
You want a motion? So move, I make a motion.
Got a motion
Second?
and a second to go ahead and modify the grant applications as stated. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next one is discussion, consideration, possible action, if any, on setting the next EDC meeting dates for March and for April. March and April. What are your recommendations? Calendars, what are we looking at? March and April. We are in March today.
Yeah, we're having another one this March?
I don't know. Do we want another one?
Well, the reason it's here is because of the last meeting that was canceled, so.
So this is basically February's, yes.
Okay, so we can do another one the end of March, 29. It's a Thursday, 27 by Tuesday. What do we have? Wednesdays and Thursdays?
Might only have
Can we
20.
do it on the
Yeah.
28th?
That's what I was going there, Sheriff.
28, 29, the 28 work for you?
Pedro?
The 28th, yes, sir. 28th is Wednesday?
Yes,
You change it to Wednesday?
Well, it's just a recommendation here, we can do
Sounds
whatever we
good.
need to.
28th, oh, because that's the one on the calendar.
28, 28.
The 28th.
Is everybody good on the 28?
I'm fine, that's the last one.
I think I'm okay as well. March 28th then.
Okay.
5:30? 5 o'clock.
5:30.
5:30.
Then we got April. April, do we wanna go 26th is Thursday, 25th is Wednesday? Or you want it sooner? Month apart
What? Which date?
for April? 25th or 26th, that's about 30 days apart.
Remember, we
If you want
have,
it sooner.
Oh, yeah.
We have
I got
the,
my calendar.
We're at a conference on the 20.
when's
Third
the
to
Urban
the
County
26th.
Conference?
The
And,
19th,
the 20th to the
19th.
22nd.
the 19th to the 21st.
We're in the conference on the 23rd to the 26th.
23rd to 26th.
Before the conference, the 12th, the 11th, 12th?
Urban County, Conference is the 19th to the 21st.
REC has a mixer on that day on the 12th. Maybe 5 to 7. How about the 11th?
On the 9th.
How about April the 11th, the Wednesday?
That works with me.
It's good, good.
Muy bien, just close to the other one? We're only 2 weeks apart.
That'll work, cause I'll be out on that following week.
Okay, so the 11th.
Hey,
April the 11th.
spring break, cuando cae?
Next
Next
week.
week.
Next week?
The 11th.
The 11th at
I
5:30.
gotta work over there.
Where?
At the beach.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I gotta work on, for the,
Okay, so you guys wanna put that in the motion, somebody?
I
Go ahead.
make a
second.
motion that we, approve, March 28th at 5:30 and April 11th at 5:30.
We got a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, discussion, consideration, possible action, if any, on assigning 3 EDC board members to the City of San Juan Comprehensive Committee Plan.
Yes, Chairman, members of the board, this is an item that, it's a comprehensive plan that the city is gonna be venturing to. It's a comprehensive plan citywide where it'll be specified where the residential will be taking place, commercial, industrial, businesses and so on and so forth. This is gonna be a joint effort by not only the city staff, but also some members of the community, elected officials, and we're asking for your participation as the PNC is also participating. So we're asking that maybe 3 of them, because we're getting 3 from different places, just to be fair with everybody else. If everybody wants to join, that's fine, but we're asking for 3.
There's 4 of us. Who wants out?
No, I'm interested in knowing this.
You all are welcome to it.
When are the
I think
meetings?
it's important.
The meetings, they'll be determined once we get the, all of the meeting. And then, we'll start sending out the, the emails as to when the meeting, the first one will take place. I think it's something that,
I'd like to
everybody,
participate as well. Como le hacemos? You want to draw straws, flip a coin, choose amongst ourselves? Como le hacemos that?
that's fine, we'll just put them on it. I know there's gonna be some instances where maybe Mr. Garcia's gonna be working or busy, or you, or it doesn't matter.
Okay. Then do a motion to put all 4 of us on there then?
I make a motion.
Second.
Got a motion, a second, to put all 4 of us on that committee. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, discussion consideration and possible action, if any, declaring a sponsorship for the 4th annual PSJ EDCH Bear Scholarship Golf Classic Golf Tournament.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, there's a flyer in your packet that starts on March 24th. That's when the tournament will be taking place. There's different levels of sponsorship. You got your friend of the PSJ, the bird partner, the sponsor, the bronze sponsor, the silver, the gold, and the title. It starts with 1,000 or 250 all the way to 3,500.
And this is for who?
This
What
is,
organization?
this is,
Just says early college high school,
Yes.
PSJ high school.
this is for the early college, I mean, for the students in general.
For
Not
scholarships.
specifically for a.
But the students have to obviously apply for the scholarships.
Yes.
And the golf tournament's just a way of raising money for us.
What are the wishes of the board?
Well, if it's for scholarship, I mean, I don't play golf. I don't know if any of you play golf,
I don't think the golf has anything to do with it.
but, we can give, I mean, I would say $1,000. Let them figure out what they wanna do with it, how they, what students they wanna give it out to.
Well, I mean, they'll probably raise $30,000-$40,000 off this tournament, and then they'll do some scholarships out.
So,
And a motion?
I make a motion to give $1,000.
Second.
And a motion, a second, for $1,000 donation to this cause. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The only thing I have to discuss here, Mr. President, is something like this, from now on, these people would fill out the form,
If
right?
we do that, if we come up with an application for the next time, it wasn't on the agenda,
Correct.
but maybe we can, that was a suggestion, I think.
I agree, I like that.
And that way, we'll set the numbers.
You got it? Do we need to make that as a motion, or that we just?
Well, we'll put it
discuss
on the agenda next, how about we put it on the agenda?
I like that. That's good.
Mr. President.
With the application itself, if we can come up with some type of, what came out of it? We're giving away this money, how did it benefit the EDC? What came out of that contribution? Because if we're not getting anything in return, and we're paying it year after year after year, and the EDC is not seeing anything in return, I mean, we're throwing money away.
See, that's a good point, Commissioner, and that's why I think it's a good idea for us to put the application, not let
Right.
them, and we decide what needs to be put.
Exactly, and then a follow-up.
We'll give you 500 if you put us in the paper, or you put us a
Exactly.
banner, or if you do this, or if you do
Mr.
that.
President.
We'll come up with those parameters.
Why don't we just, I mean, I don't know if I can take back the motion, but why don't we give them, tell the school that we're giving out a scholarship for $1,000, and students can apply for our, like we used to do it, Jesse? And remember we used to do it back then, or Neto? You remember the fire department? We used to do it at the fire department. Okay, we would give $1,500, but we would have the students apply to the fire department. Then we had a little committee where we started scoping out, because they have to write an essay, they have
Well,
to
that's
write work.
something that we could possibly.
Hey,
Instead of
They
giving
can
them
promote the
$1,000,
EDC.
we promote the EDC by applying to the EDC.
Right.
So.
But it doesn't hurt for us to do that anyway, aside from this.
Legally, I think we have issues with that, because we looked into that one
It's
time.
not promotional.
No. This would be more promotional, because you could justify and say, we're putting our name on the
And
banner.
if you look at the second flyer, which is on the second page, $1,000 is gonna give you a three-man team registration, it's gonna give you a banner, printed material recognition, and it's gonna give you a special thank you plaque. So on those 18 holes, there's gonna be a sign that will say, sponsored by the San Juan EDC.
Well, I don't play golf, but I can go drive the golf cart, go around the
So,
track.
so did we take action on that item?
I
Yes.
made a
We
motion.
did take
And I
action
second.
on the $1,000, right?
$9.
And we
All in
also
favor, signify by
decided-
saying aye. We
And
said
we
aye.
also decided to, yeah,
On our next meeting, have an agenda item for.
For us to prepare,
There was a vote on that?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was asking Mr. Israel.
I have motion.
I second.
Yes, there was a vote.
Pass. The next item, number 9, discussion, consideration, possible action, if any, declaring sponsorship for PSJ Independent School District to honor their 43 outstanding teachers with a gift card and donate a door prize as a promotional purpose.
At the end of the school year, they're asking for donations. Now, it doesn't have to be 43, like they're saying here, but it can be
Just anything.
just a few.
Do we have a flyer for that?
You don't get a flyer?
It was just a letter,
What's the letter?
it was just a letter, whatever you.
Oh, yes, the letter that is there with me. It says that the PSJ School District would like to honor outstanding teachers from each of the 43 campuses, and they name our district elementary school secondary teacher of the year. The top teachers in each category continue to compete at the regional and state level. So we're asking for
I mean, that's a tough one for
See,
promotional.
and that's again, we're not getting anything out of it, like you said,
There's
so.
zero promotional there for us. I mean, I know it's hard, but, you know, we need to set the standards here. If we have that application, if you qualify for this, because if you're gonna put us in a banner somewhere, or you qualify, then you get it. And if you don't, you can't help you.
Well, I say we table it or not vote at all. I mean, I'm not good with it.
I don't know. If we give them something, we'd be okay.
Again, y'all are the ones that decide whether it's promotional, you know, but how are they gonna promote you and the city?
Like something like that, we'd have to have like, okay, maybe a cup that says San Juan EDC, put you in a card ID or something like that, you know, at least some ink.
Or I mean, if they put something saying these are our sponsors, I mean, you could try to justify it that way.
What if we do this, if I may, real quick?
Go ahead.
Work on the letter and send them that letter specifying some sort of promotional request and see what they reply on that. Maybe they'll just say no, or
Because that way, you know, with the letter, we're in more control. We said this is the max we can give. We have a level,
because
three level.
do we actually have to meet again and decide what's gonna be on the letter when we already have an idea, we just want promotion?
Well, we wanna put it on the agenda and
Okay.
approve it, I would think.
Well, then we can just.
But
wait
for
on
this item, or unless you
no?
wanna just do a little bit, just do good faith, but learn from it, I don't know. The last time we said no, it backfired on us, remember?
Mr. President, if I may, I'd like to table this item at this time. At this time.
Let me ask maybe a question from
Is
Mr.
there
Ramirez.
time limit on this?
I don't know what I was gonna ask him, on the promotional on this side,
March the
you
26th.
guys meet at the end of the school year, or Mr. Ojeda will. I know that they named the teacher of the year from the campus. Did they give you like a flyer that indicates who were the sponsors?
Maybe whoever attends, I don't know, I don't even remember. I mean, when I got this recognition, I don't even remember.
But it doesn't matter, even if it's a teacher of the year, that's up to the school district to give them something, not the
Yeah.
EDC.
If we table this item, it's moot point, because this thing is, they need it by the 22nd, and our next meeting is the 28th. So we just, instead of doing that, just say no then, if that's what you wanna do.
Yeah.
But if we wanna be good faith partners here, maybe don't give them a dollar amount, maybe buy them 4 gift cards, $50, and put San Juan EDC on there or something. That's what they're gonna give away.
Can we do it?
I mean, at least we get the ink out of that.
Mr. Attorney,
That'd be more promotional. I would argue that's more promotional.
4 gift cards, $50?
You know, and we put them with the San Juan EDC if we have cups or something, or that's gonna be our little gift to the individual teacher at that reception.
Then I withdraw my motion. And I restate another motion, 4 gift cards of $50 for promotional expense to the, outstanding teachers, PSJ Independent School District, to honor the outstanding teachers.
And a second?
A second.
A motion and a second to give four gift cards to this organization. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And one discussion here, I'm looking at this, they're asking businesses, we're not a business.
Yeah, I know. So that's why, it's getting out of hand, that's why that application's gonna help.
This is,
That
Yeah,
application's
with the,
gonna help.
with the exception that Mr. Guajardo or Mr. Ramirez cannot get those cards.
No, that's usually.
Oh, yeah. No, I
He might qualify better than me. Teacher of the year.
Teacher of the year.
Okay, moving on to the next item, and we are now at 45,000.
Oh, look at me.
así se va.
Yeah,
I know.
Because those people are gonna be expecting the same amount,
Every year.
minimum.
Number 10, discussion, consideration, possible action, if any, declaring San Juan EDC projects for the 2017-18 fiscal budget year.
Mr. President, I recommend we go into executive session on this one under 551-087, 1 and 2.
Okay, at this point, or should we handle number 11 first, or is that also?
We would just come back to that one after executive session, under number 11, I'd recommend.
Okay, we have a recommendation from legal counsel, you wanna send it for a motion?
A second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to go into executive session at this time. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, it's now 6:46, we're going into executive session. Okay, it's now 7:44, we are out of executive session and we're reconvening our EDC meeting for the city of San Juan. Back to item number 10, discussion, consideration, possible action, if any, declaring San Juan EDC projects for the 2017-2018 fiscal budget year. This time we're declaring project RG for up to $40,000. Have that in a form of motion?
Entertain a motion.
A second.
We got a motion, a second to declare project RG for up to $40,000. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is, discussion, consideration, possible action, if any, authorizing and directing the San Juan EDC staff and attorney to begin the process for this project. So it's just a follow-up, same item.
And it'd be project RD up to 40,000.
Project RG up to 40,000, which will include putting it in the newspaper and doing everything else that needs to be done. As we look at the next public hearing.
Mr. President, so moved.
Got a motion, and a second, go ahead and proceed with this. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Just for clarification, we're gonna bring this item back as a public hearing.
Public hearing. So our next meeting, we can do it in the newspaper.
That's all we have on the agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So.
Second. Got a motion, a second to adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.
Porque no, yo quiero que era tu anniversary.